And we're live. Hello, Matthew.
Good morning, Jason. Good evening, Jason.
Good
Just
morning.
getting to that.
Good
And good
morning, good
morning,
evening.
everybody there in Facebook land and beyond. Welcome to today's conversation. And it seemed like this one was gathering a lot of interest when we just posted first about it the other day. And so we just go with these inspirations and see where they carry us. And today's inspiration was to chat a little bit about how to bring a little bit more spirituality into our life when life is so busy. I mean, so many of us are working full-time jobs. We've got other things that we have with family along the side. There's other kinds of commitments out there. And so, it could seem like there's all these different spiritual practices that we learn about, whether from Jason, myself, or the yoga masters, or whoever it is. And it's like, well, how do we build that all in? And so that's a little bit about what we're going to be discussing this morning. I think we're going to have some fun with it because I'm pretty sure that lack of time is something that a lot of people can relate to. And so as we finish sharing this on other pages, I'll invite Jason in a moment. But I just thought I'd give a little brief introduction to
Yeah,
today's talk.
excellent,
What
Matthew. I'd say spot on. Yeah, I think everyone has, that thing where they say they expect to get, their spiritual things done. But I mean, where do you find the time? Sometimes people have got busy lives. I'm just going to say a
Mhm.
big hello to everyone that's just joined us. Hello and welcome. Thank you for your
Hello.
comments. Welcome from Germany, but also welcome from Canada for Matthew. Um, so yeah, basically, very busy lives. How do we fit it all in? And I know there's a lot of people out there that'll be like, yeah, when am I going to find time to meditate? When am I going to find time to read that spiritual book? Or when am I going to, when people are trying to juggle so much things in their lives and they're wondering like,
Mhm.
when am I going to get all this done? And
Mhm.
getting caught up in that mindset of like, oh, it's all too much, it's too busy. How can we get this? How can we fit all this in? I mean, wouldn't it be good? I mean, a lot of people out there are probably thinking it would be great just to have a retreat and go away in the retreat and just go and sit there and say, oh, the peace and the quiet, and just have a retreat for themselves to
Mhm.
gather their thoughts and do their
Mhm.
spiritual practices. Because in daily life, a lot of people are like, well, where am I going to fit it in? Got to get the kids sorted out, got to get this sorted out, got all these things sorted out. And
Yeah.
normally, the first thing that people give up is their self-care time, right? The
Yeah.
first thing any woman, any man that's they're going to give up their self-care time. They're like, no, as long as the kids are being looked after, as long as work's being taken care of, as long as these things are being taken care of, the first thing people give up when they come into the idea of being too busy is looking after themselves, taking that time. You know,
Mhm.
how's
Well,
that?
then
How's that at
people.
your end, Matthew?
Oh yeah, and then when we do that, it's like it seems like we're being selfish or we're taking too much time out for ourselves, or that
Yeah.
we become so self-obsessed and self-oriented. And I think there's a little bit in that for all of us. It's like, yeah, we do need to take some self-care time. And I think we can also turn I would say is like, how can we turn some of the other time into spiritual moments? Because it's like, one of the things I share with people is like our spirituality isn't something that's a separate part of our life. I mean, that's the whole challenge with our world. Everything's separate, right? This is separate from that. That's separate from this.
Oh yeah.
And so it's like, wow, how can I bring? So I would say first is like, how can we bring these into our activities? So, it's like, um, I do a practice called Kriya Yoga, and I know some of the Kriya yogis who are doing this are meditating for 3 hours a day, 4 hours a day. Good on them. And it's not something that I've quite mastered yet, but I have done it so that I can do a little bit in the morning, a little bit in the evening. Well, a little bit being about 40 minutes in the morning, 40 minutes in the evening, and it creates a nice bit of balance there. And I'm still getting it, accruing the time. But also, it's like if I'm out walking the dog, I will use that as some meditation or contemplation time, because if I'm out in nature and it's a 10-minute walk, 20-minute walk, I can use that time. I don't have to be sitting on the mat in order to meditate and contemplate. I can actually be out enjoying other activities. And that's something I would say is like, how can we bring a question we could ask, right? Is like, because we've got, we'll talk about it in a minute, I'm sure, as doing inventories of our time and where we're spending our time. But if we are doing a lot of these activities, how can we bring more mindfulness into it? How can we bring more contemplation into it? How could we bring meditation into it? Because, and even, we'll get into that in a moment too, actually. Bringing these different spiritual practices into our daily moments instead of this set time where I'm sitting down here, I'm sitting down there. Even we've talked about on the show before, if you're having coffee dates with friends, and you're wanting to practice your mediumship, well, why don't you invite one of the spirits to come and sit with you for coffee? Me and a friend do that every week when we meet up. So it's like that we could have fun with this too. It's like, what are fun, creative ways that I could bring this into my daily life just a little bit more?
Interesting, Matthew. That's really interesting. Good thing to do. And what it reminds me of is like, how can you streamline your spiritual practices into your life, right? And you're like, how am I going to do that? So you're like, meditation. Well, most people, if they want to meditate, I mean, I go for mornings, especially with kids. If you can get a moment in the morning, if you can give yourself 5 minutes in the morning to sit in a quiet space, or even if you can give yourself that 15 minutes in the morning, I'd get up earlier. I mean, that's just my way of doing it, because with my kids and my busy agenda, I just get up earlier and I create time, and I'll take that
So what
time.
kind of time are you getting up?
I'm getting up at 6:30 in the morning now, so I'll do an hour of my rituals, which is going to be like meditating, breathing exercises, all those practices that I would not have time for, because with a busy household, 3 children, there's no place of putting it in there. So I get it all out of the way in the morning, and then I can get on with my work and I can get on with my day. And in the afternoons, I find anything can happen with kids, anything. So you've got that thing where, like, you might think, oh, I plan to do that then, but then something comes up. There's always that one thing, right? The problem is like, I find, and most people do it. They're like, they'll look at the amount of stuff they've got to do in the day and say, I'm really busy, and they'll see it as a great big mountain of stuff to do.
Yeah,
And
overwhelmed.
it's very, I used to be like that as well, and it took me a while to say, right, okay, how many minutes does it take to do that one thing? How many minutes does it take to do that one other thing? And so when I worked it out, when I said that's a 5-minute job, that's 10-minute job, that's 15-minute job, and I went through, when I go through it like that, and it might be just taking 5 minutes to do planning, right, in the morning, I found I was creating more time and less stress for myself, because the most of the time what I found I was doing when I was in that mindset was I was creating more more stress for myself, thinking, oh my God, how am I going to get all that done? And I did too much overthinking about it, making myself busy in my mind before
Yeah,
I actually got into action to doing it. And then I
yeah,
found that, if I could create more space, more time for myself, more time to do my practices in the morning, I set out my thing. And in that space that you create, just that you create a quick plan of how you're going to go about your day, it creates more, oh, okay, I can see where this is all going.
yeah.
And so how does that resonate with you, Matthew?
Yeah. It's forward thinking versus reactive thinking, isn't it? It's
Yeah,
like, okay, because you talk about unforeseen things and you got kids. I don't got kids, right? So I love that you're able to talk about this as an example with kids,
yeah.
because there's lots of people out there who do have children,
Well,
so they can.
Matthew, when you got kids, you become the taxi chauffeur. You've got to be the taxi chauffeur. You've got to be the personal chef. You've got to be the counselor. You've got to be the anger management courses person. You've got to fit in so many different hats, right?
Yeah, and I've seen you in action in that when we were visiting you in Germany, so I get that.
Yeah.
And I don't have a kid, but even then, there's still things like unforeseen. Our dog ran off yesterday, um, she ran off late at night, and we spent an hour looking for her. And it's like we don't plan for some of those things. So it's like, what are the times in the day when we have got plans where we can take back some control? Because I think that's it. We get the stress and the anxiety because we feel like we haven't got anything under control, right? So,
Yeah.
we can't control people. We can't control pets running away. Well, if you close the door better, but that's another story. And we could, we could look in our day and say where are the times that we can take back some control. And for a lot of us, it's either early morning or late evening. And I like meditating in the late evening, but there's definitely value to being able to start the day in that place. So if you can make that extra time in that day and look at the things too, it's like if we're talking about inventory of time, I mean, here we are, we're broadcasting this live on social media. So it's like, some people are watching this and some people have got it playing and they're probably thumbing through and looking through. And it's like, what I would say is looking for, as well as doing an inventory of how long certain activities are going to take us, what are the activities that can distract us? And, I know people have heard this before. This isn't new to anybody, but we all get trapped in that, right? And it's like, being aware of when we're distracted. I mean, technology comes up with these things like the Apple iPhones now will tell you how much screen time you had this week and how much more you had than last week. And so it can help you to quantify your time in that way. So that's, it's really being mindful of that kind of thing because, and also, like you said, you get up first thing in the morning and you're doing those kinds of activities.
Yeah.
What are the activities that you're doing when you first wake up in the morning? Is the first thing you do pick up your phone and
I get in.
social?
I don't pick up my phone anymore. I banned myself from using Facebook for the first hour, and you won't believe how much that helps me with my day. And since I've been doing that, I've actually banned myself from using Facebook until about 11 o'clock in the morning. So what I'm doing is I'm giving myself time to do my meditating. I'll do my breathing practices. I'll make sure I'm taking being healthy, starting my day off healthily. But I'll also be doing the Wim Hof breathing exercises. I take my cold showers. I wouldn't recommend it for everyone, but for me it works really well.
Yeah,
Um, it gives you like the coffee kick without the coffee. Um,
yeah,
and I like to make sure that my day is like that. And when I've got that done, then I'll give a quick scan of what I've got to do in my day, what's my plan, how am I going to do it, where can I fit stuff in, and I get a better overview in that way. What I used to be like before, let's say January, because I had decided to do less Facebook in January. Um, I found that I was just getting on the phone, and before I know it, I'd lose an hour. Right
mm,
before you know it, somehow Facebook and what it does, it draws you in, and you want to be in touch with everything. And I found out really it's impossible to be in touch and be in the know about everything. And what was
mm,
drawing me into Facebook is I really want to know what's going on with everyone's lives. So I'm like, I'd really
yes,
love to know that. And Facebook used to give you that, but since they've changed all this stuff, I you don't see half the posts that people post. So I thought I go in there and I see what I see at my 11 o'clock time. I see as many things as I can. I like everything I can see. And if I can, anyone that's got a birthday, I try to wish them all a happy birthday. I've done all that by 11 o'clock, but in the middle of that time in the morning, I've spent a lot of time probably working, doing stuff, and it's just creating a space where you're in a better energy. And since I've stopped with Facebook, I'll tell you, Matthew, I feel I've got my mind back. I've got more time, all that sort of thing, which had been lost
yes,
through the mobile device.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. And definitely being mindful of that is the first step for us in this modern society. Any technology, right? It's like TV as well.
Yeah,
And I think the important thing too is not to judge ourselves if we catch ourselves in this, because if we judge ourselves, we just keep ourselves trapped in that distraction. But if we can just be observers of that, and like, oh, look where I'm going today with that,
yeah.
and then being able to step away, I think that's huge. And I think something else too is like, being aware of when it comes to um, you're talking about when the breathing, and we talk about that every week, and it seems like it's repetitive, but it's because it's so fundamental and we forget about it. And it's literally like when we're feeling the stress and build up in our body, and we just remember to take some deep breaths. It doesn't have to be the Wim Hof breath, it doesn't have to be any yoga practice,
No.
just breathe deep.
Yeah.
And when you breathe deep like that into the stress you're feeling, then it can begin to ebb away, and you can begin to center yourself, and then you can make decisions from that place of a center. So, breath work is fundamental to any yoga practice. It is a spiritual practice, and it can be done in every moment. And two things that were coming up there for me as you were talking too was that a lot of times too it's looking at where we make ourselves busier than we have to, because there's this whole it's when people ask you, oh, how are you doing? Oh yeah, I'm busy. It's like it's a status symbol for a lot of us, right? I know it used to be for me as a personal trainer. I'd be working from 5:30 in the morning to 9:30 at night. Busy meant that I had lots of clients, right? But busy doesn't necessarily mean we're able to step into our spiritual practice. And in fact, I posted a post yesterday, which was funny for a lot of people, but because it hit home, and it was just a person. It was saying, me, and it says, I need to get some help around here. And then also me says, no, not like that. Here, I'll do it. I'll do it. And so it's like looking at where are the tasks that we take over out of a sense of needing to control things versus where can we, if we're in work, can we trust and delegate? So the concept of time and busyness has so much more to do with so many other things. That it's like it is a spiritual journey. I mean, if we look at time and the very concept of time, we could do a whole discussion on that. The idea that time is something that the mind has created, and that does time even really exist? And yet it's something that we're here, that we work through there. It's like humans are busy making money now so they can have more time later. But how often does that reality actually manifest for people?
Well, I mean, there's a lot of people that don't make it to the, to the pension age to actually receive that money that they're putting into it. But that's another discussion. The whole thing is, what Matthew was saying about the breathing. It reminded me of something that I learned when I was younger, which is basically anyone that's depressed, you'll see normally they're really compressed in their shoulders coming forward, and they're not using their lung capacity. And if you look at people when they're confident, their breathing changes. When you feel confident, your shoulders go back. You feel confident, you feel proud, and you end up automatically using 100% of your breathing. And just changing the way you sit and the way you are, you're creating more space and more energy, because you're breathing in more energy for yourself as well. So that's one of the tips that you can use is are you sitting right? Are you straight? Are you feeling confident? Are you breathing confidently? Because what I've noticed, if you change your breathing, your mood changes as well. So you change your breathing, you can get into a different zone. You change your breathing, you will get into a different consciousness, into a different flow, and that's a good thing. So
let's just do that with everybody right now. Let's do some like just for a couple of seconds here. Just feel what that feels like. Because the other thing that I feel when we do that is that when we're centered and we can tune into spirit, it's like literally we're practicing our spirituality then too, because we're tuning into our intuition and its inner guidance.
Well, we've got a big hello from people from America. Sarah Sachs, hi. We've got some other people joining us from Ireland. Happy welcome. And some people are resonating with what we're saying. I mean, Lee Shanks says that she meditates while doing the laundry or doing the dishes. I mean, that's a good idea, because I don't know if you've learned that as well, Matthew, that meditation while doing things, right? And like people say, you have to like walking and inner meditation contemplation. Like some people do it when they're going for a walk with the dog, or going around the forest. But you can even do it when you are doing your household things, when you put yourself in the state of you are in your beingness and not in your doingness. Because if you're in your doingness, you're like running after trying to get everything done. But if you're
Hmm.
in your beingness, just you being there is getting the stuff done. It's a different state. So you're switching yourself out of that state of like, oh, I've got so much to do, into the state
Hmm.
of I'm in my beingness, so I'm in flow and I'm taking it step by step. So that is a meditative state if you can get into it.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. So if you're just sitting there right now and you're thinking about all the things that you got to be doing instead of listening to us, uh, just take a moment and just breathe in deep there, and just like when Jason was talking there, I was just
Yeah.
becoming more mindful and present with my breath and
Breathe.
listening to him through there,
Yeah.
and just remembering to breathe. So
Like the
it's
key
like,
the key aspects is what Matthew's going on is like with yoga, it's all about the breath and about being in space. Change your mood, change your breath. And if you're breathing
mhm,
deeply and connecting to spirit, just breathing deeply and that
yeah.
feeling of being in that spiritual space, it can be that quick that you're suddenly shifted out of a certain thinking into a different way of thinking, right?
Yeah, it's letting the breath control the thinking rather than, it's like sometimes people would say, "Oh, I'm feeling stressed out." Relax, relax. And that might initiate something, but sometimes we're just not able to. Whereas we could be feeling great depth of stress or something like that, and being able to breathe into that. And something else that there's what you were just talking about there before rushing off into things, and the essentials of tuning in, because if you begin your day and say you're looking at your emails, it's being mindful of what's other people's agendas trying to push their agendas on you,
Yeah,
right, versus what are the true ones. And when you can take that time again to breathe. So if you're sitting looking at all these emails for the day that you got to answer,
yeah,
I see posts on Facebook regularly where people are like, "Oh, I got 300 emails to work through. If I haven't got back to you, I'm going to get back to you." And, at the same time, it's like we have to be really mindful of what are the ones that are essential for us to respond to. And in order to move us forward on, our pull and our calling, because that's really important.
it's really
And
it's really important. What you said is really correct. Like on my phone, I'll be like, somebody sent me a message. Quick, I need to answer now. And I'll say, I'm just busy. I might be in the supermarket. I'll get back to you later. And like
yeah,
the person on the other end, they're like, all right, well,
yeah,
and
I know
I
we
might write that same message to like 10 people in a day, and then I realized that people enjoy having a message back when you've got time to do it. So when I said I won't do it in the mornings and I'll do it at 11 o'clock in the morning, it's my time to reply to messages, and I just go through them all and give them all and then everyone's getting the attention they need at the time
yeah,
when it fits in with my day. And then
yeah.
they feel that they've really been heard and they've got a good answer.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Because it's like, on your phones, it says you get the read receipts now, so you can say, "Oh, they've read that text. They read that. Why
Yeah,
haven't they responded to me?" But
yeah,
if we can give other people what we ourselves want, so it's like, "Hey, yeah, get back to me when it's working, when it's works for you, when it's that kind of thing," versus, "Okay, it's been 20 seconds and they still haven't responded to me." I mean, just you can feel the stress that brings in there
oh,
right away.
absolutely. Cindy
Yeah,
Williams is really resonating with what we're saying. She said she meditates when she's vacuuming,
yeah.
and she even gets messages from spirit when vacuuming. And she's off to work
Oh,
now, so see you later, Cindy.
see you later, Cindy.
Yeah,
And when I work with people and guiding them with the work of the gene keys, a lot of it is about contemplating their particular gene key or some nature aspect of their nature, and seeing where it plays out in their life. And I have heard the time. It's like, life gets busy and I don't have the time. And I find the time again in those other activities. So sometimes it's meditation, but sometimes I'm contemplating the nature of things within my Gene Keys profile, for instance. So it could be doing some of those activities and just being able to ask myself questions, and that's why I love the contemplative path, because it really is not separate from the rest of life. I could be in a lineup at the groceries and I could be tapping my fingers or my wrists and being like, this thing is moving too slowly and getting stressed by time. Or I could be using that because every moment offers us something to reflect on too.
Yeah.
And so when I'm getting that, is like, I could use this as a moment to express some gratitude. How could I express gratitude while I'm waiting in this line, right? How could I
Yeah.
contemplate the nature of the gifts that I'm bringing to the world? How can I bring kindness into this moment? There's so
Yeah.
many opportunities throughout our day, and the things that show up for us, it's like, I don't want to use the word that they're tests or anything, but they show up for us so that we can remind ourselves of our true nature, right?
Yeah.
So the people that come up and throw daggers at us, or not figurative daggers, or that they get mad at us, those are moments for spiritual practice too. It's not a case of, I just sit there and take their daggers, then go home and meditate on it later. In that moment, I'm being given an opportunity to practice my presence, to listen deeply to another person's pain, all those kinds of things that are part of spiritual practice.
Exactly. And what reminds me of being in a human beingness, right? Being a human being and being in your beingness. When you're really present and you realize, like, somebody might be acting negative or something, doing something negative towards you, and it might take you out of balance, where you might feel, oh, I feel out of balance in this. But when you're in your beingness, you can feel, oh, hold on, they might have had something bad happen to them that's making them react this way, and then you can be more understanding to the situation. What I find, and this is probably what I want to talk about in our next thing, is how we connect with like minds, but we don't connect to people that have a different mind. And I say, oh,
Yeah.
are we really becoming connected as a human race, or are we becoming disconnected and only connected with what we feel like we're connected with, right? So it's like we'll surround ourselves with our group of people, but we won't move into different groups, and so anyone that is in, let's say, in that queue or in that line, and they might be, in your words, ignorant or not nice or rude, they might have good reason to be that. um
Nobody knows what pain
you,
they've experienced.
you know
Doesn't mean that we tolerate abuse and other things
no, no. I always say, look, I understand you've got stress, but I don't like the
like
way you're saying something or being in a certain way. So I will always voice my opinion, but I will say, I understand that you must be very very busy or under stress, but I don't accept that sort of action. And so you don't need to let people walk over you, but it's just having that little bit more of understanding that people are going through stuff as well. And when you're in your human beingness, and that's when you're being and you're present, you pick up on these things easier. But when you're in your doingness and you're on your smartphone and you're not quite aware of what's going around you, and you're stressed, and you don't know how to deal with all these things because you're juggling all these balls, then it gets quite difficult to actually react in the right way. You might think, whoa, this is, so you might react up that reaction, when really that guy or that person might be just someone that's bringing you wisdom that shows you a little bit more about your true self. If you were aware of it, you might see the surrounding environment is also showing you a little bit more of like a mirror of what you are like, what is your true self, you know?
absolutely,
Yeah.
yeah. And it's working within what we feel of those limitations. And it's actually, just as I'm saying that, it's striking me that you came up with the concept of this conversation the other day, and that we're
Yeah.
sort of been playing it out today. And in terms of gene keys and the pulse of the planets right now, the gene key that is affecting the planet right now, the shadow is limitation, right? So the limitation in the sense that we're discussing today is time.
Yeah.
And the gift of that particular one is called realism, which is not about being realistic. It is actually about making magic happen. And everything that we've talked about today, we've talked about ways that we work within the structures that we have in life, because we do have structures. People can be either totally devoid of structures or have way too much structure in their life. And what we're talking about today is that we have our day, we have the structure within that day, and we can get caught up in our mind and just be caught up in those limitations, or we can be really in a contemplative state or a meditative state and be able to transmute some of those limitations and be able to create magic. So everything we've talked about today is a portal to allowing magic to happen, because the kind of things that as you put these into practice, you might notice that time frees up somewhere that you didn't know about, and being aware that just because time freeing up doesn't mean money going out the window, right? Sometimes people feel like if I give up some time here, I won't make as much money or something like that. But the beauty of raising our frequency and trusting in the divine nature of things is that spirit knows our needs. It knows what we need. And it's like it can find other ways to get that to us. Spirit isn't telling us that we've got to work 24/7 and never have a break for ourselves. Spirit is actually supportive. Hey, it's like you take time for yourself and I'll show you some miracles that you never even thought could happen. So I just thought it was really interesting. We're sitting in the timing and everything you were just talking about there, that feeling like we're in situations and feeling limited, but we're actually being given an opportunity to transcend and bring some magic into the world. So
absolutely. And if we're present, if we're present, sorry, Matthew, but if we're present and we're in the present moment, then you're going to get a lot more to it. I mean, there used to be, like we talked about, James Redford, he wrote the 10 Insights, and it was like, do you see the synchronicities in life? You wouldn't see the synchronicities in life if you were always glued to your smartphone, but you wouldn't see the synchronicities in life if you weren't being aware of it. And the key word is being. So if in your beingness and you've created time in the morning, we say, okay, you win back time by saying, hey, the first hour's for me and it's not for the smartphone. You're winning yourself back. If that's going to be your meditative time, if that's going to be your planning time, if that's going to be the time that you give yourself, because really it's about self-love and self-care. And also, if you set yourself up right for the day and you give yourself the positive affirmations in the morning, it's setting you up for the right of the day. And that time is so precious, that you can give yourself. And if you just free yourself up that moment, say, hey, I'll get up just that little bit earlier, or I'll create that space, or I'll create that time in the day. It might be even say, hey, I'll let that meeting, I'm going to keep that place free in the day for me, for that self-care and that self-help. Not only does it help you through the day, but it helps you also, through the whole week. And the more you do it, the more you will find how you can fit in all this stuff into your day and into your week, and you'll enjoy a far more inspired lifetime.
And don't forget to ask people for support too, where you can, because I know that's a big one for a lot of people watching. Yeah. So I think we've come to the end of our half an hour. And
we certainly have. It's flowing by, Matthew.
Well, we limited ourselves again, didn't we? But look how much we packed into 30 minutes.
Well, we try to pack in as much as possible, don't we?
Yeah. And if I could leave anything with people today, it's like, wow, what are some of those things that really stood out for you today? And can I put them into practice today? And I'd love to hear how your day goes and what happens and transpires and how you're feeling throughout the day. So, later on tonight, after you put that into practice throughout the day, I'd love to see comments down here below. Maybe you've already been doing it since we've been on this, the live stream, but I'd love to hear how people begin implementing that, because what happens when you share your experiences, just as we've shared our experiences, it inspires other people to do the same. And,
absolutely,
we could have some pretty neat experiences in our day. We can all slow down time just a little bit.
And appreciating this. If you appreciate this video, share it with whoever you want to, if you think it might inspire someone. But also, take the insights and share them yourself.
Yeah, exactly. That's a great way to learn it, isn't it? I mean, that's why we're doing what we do.
Exactly.
We share it here because it reminds us.
I think it's a good thing, just to do it. But guys, it's been really lovely talking to you. Because we're limited by time, right? Really, I'd say make the most of your time. Spend an inspiring day, and if you ever want to get in contact with me or Matthew, we both have our personal pages on here. Matthew also does coaching with the Gene Keys. I do coaching, mediumship, and other stuff. just check the pages out. There's and see what resonates with you.
Yeah.
I just want to say, Lee Shanks, you've been very active in this one again. Good to see you, and good to all the other people that have been there. Thank you very much, and see you next
Thanks,
Thursday.
everybody.
Next Thursday, 5 o'clock, when we've planned in a little bit more time for inspiration with you guys. So I'll say bye bye from me.
8 a.m. Canada.
Yeah.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.